That subtle, dark black color. The slice-resistant fabric. My god, the armor perfectly outlines the abs. I can't believe Alfred prefers the lighter, more flexible suit.
The Batman is a symbol of hope, and fans of the character have had multiple adaptations since the 40s. But especially with the increased interest in hero stories after the hit of Christopher Nolan's Trilogy, we've had an onslaught of adaptations and banger stories. Right after the success of The Dark Knight, a sudden bombshell was dropped on all Batman fans: Batman: Arkham Asylum. This game served as the holy grail of action-adventure games for me as a kid. It succeeded not only in fidelity and function, but also theme. The Batman 2022 finally introduced the world to a brutal on-screen version of the Caped Crusader. A version without humoristic quips, a savage representation of violence, and a seemingly more naturalistic account of life in Gotham. As a child of the 2000s, my first introduction to the character came in the form of the 1992 animated series, which not only holds up today, but might be the reason why people in my generation have such an adoration for the character. Batman, with his sympathetic backstory, his seemingly plausible gadgets, and his righteous mentality, has always been effective at creating connections with the audience. But just because there's a cool car, a sad backstory, or a bad guy, doesn't mean a story will be interesting. What makes Batman work is the underlying themes. In the animated series, the Art Deco style works in service of the medium, allowing for both comedic and serious moments. Danny Elfman's score has become the definitive music for Batman, with no other score other than the classic being as iconic. But most importantly, the show was able to perfectly convey in only 20 minutes per episode what makes a Batman story work. It didn't matter if you already knew the characters or had seen the previous episodes. Every episode quickly and effectively conveyed the relationships between the characters, the conflict and what's at stake, and most importantly, has a digestible theme. While there are a few weaker episodes, these tend to be the ones where the underlying theme is either less compelling or just non-existent. I've divided the episodes into 4 different categories, and the first category revolves around children, which oftentimes means the theme is less effective. Episode 6, The Underdwellers. Episode 9, Be a Clown. And episode 13, I've Got Batman in My Basement, all revolve around children. Some of these episodes don't hit as hard because they revolve around children and they're aimed at children. If you are a kid, you're supposed to sympathize with the kid in the story. But in some of these stories, it's then also harder to introduce a deeper meaning or an underlying theme. However, some episodes do this quite well, like episode 17, See No Evil. In this episode, the Invisible Man, a convicted felon, does everything he can to spend time with his daughter, Kimmy. He tries to talk with his ex-wife to try to get in contact with Kimmy, but the ex doesn't want anything to do with him, so he uses an invisibility cloak to kidnap his daughter. He is obviously a bad guy. He's done a bunch of bad things, and he still does. But he does it for his kid, and while he is horrible, it creates this theme of family. And as you can imagine, the theme of family oftentimes hits home in a Batman story. In the end, Batman makes sure that Kim is home safe with her mother, and away from the gangster life that the Invisible Man leads. Compare this to, say, episode 9, Be a Clown, where the son of the mayor, Jordan, follows the Joker, who takes him under his wing. As Batman shows up to bring back the kid, Jordan realizes that Joker is a bad guy and helps Batman catch him. During the episode, the mayor is of course distraught, despite being quite negligent towards his son in the beginning. I guess you could argue that this creates the theme of appreciate what you have, but the episode focuses more on how the kid helps Batman, and it's really not that deep. But then we have the second category of episodes, the Joker episodes. The reason why I'm giving Joker his own category is because while he's in multiple episodes, he doesn't really present any unique themes in any of the stories. It's always the classic Joker wants to destroy or control Gotham and Batman needs to stop him. The issue with this is that in these 20-minute episodes, it's hard to convey the chaos, the inner turmoil, and the ideological battle between Batman and the Joker. The best parts of these episodes is just seeing Joker's personality, Batman's and Joker's gadgets, and of course the insane performance by Mark Hamill. The episodes with the Joker are great, don't get me wrong, but they tend to be more mindless fun than thought-provoking. But category 3 and 4 is where the magic of the animated series lies. It's the friends and foes. There are a couple episodes that mainly revolve around Batman, the police, and Catwoman. In these episodes, relationships deepen, motivations are fleshed out, and the core of the different characters can be exposed. One of my favorite episodes, Forgotten, highlights Bruce's sense of justice, the importance of his heritage, and his dedication to his cause. Not only does the episode start with Bruce showing care for people in need, but after he loses his memory, what helps him remember is his connection to his family. He starts saving people again as soon as his memory returns, and he brings justice upon the evildoers who kidnapped him and multiple others. This episode has this theme of protective instinct. I'm not sure quite what to call it. Even as Bruce has forgotten who he is, he still does his best and wants to help people, which I believe strengthens his character as a whole. He's a good person even without his money, history, and upbringing. It's inherent to his character. Episode 18, Beware the Grey Ghost, shows a set of explosive crimes which are inspired by an old television series. In the series, the Grey Ghost, who is a vigilante, stops the villain, which is something that a young Bruce admires. The actor who portrayed the Grey Ghost is haunted by his success as the Grey Ghost and is down on his luck. This makes him wish he never played the role and makes himself distance himself from it, until Batman shows up asking him for help. This episode not only shows the impact a piece of media can have on a person, but it shows the impact each and every one of us have on our surroundings. The theme of impact is something that I think a lot of us can relate to. We are who we are because of the people around us, and in turn, we can impact others. Being admirable, even if it's just in a TV show, can have a huge impact on others. Even if you feel insignificant, I promise you that you have had a massive impact on so many lives that you might not even think about. And then of course, there's the double episode, The Cat and the Claw, where Catwoman steals a necklace to pay for her mountain lion preserve. She doesn't hurt anyone, and the cause is noble, and while she does commit a crime, it's easy to forgive her for it. Batman is of course not very happy about the thieving, but when dealing with the villain Red Claw, who not only is threatening releasing a deadly poison across Gotham, but is also destroying wildlife, Batman has to team up with Catwoman. And at the same time, Bruce and Selina Kyle meet, and there is an instant attraction. I love this theme of forbidden love, and I also really like how Catwoman, to some degree at least, shows Batman that not all crimes are evil. It also helps that it's a 2-episode long storyline. It helps Catwoman's character to develop and for us to at least to some degree take her side. Further, it allows for the conflicting feelings and ideologies of Batman and Catwoman to develop and be presented as human and natural. Their relationship ends up being deeper and feels more real because we get to see how they impact each other. And then we have the villains. And while I would love to talk about all of them, there's just not the time, so I've picked out a few of my favorites. And first off, Scarecrow. Scarecrow debuts in episode 3, Nothing to Fear. He's a professor gone mad after his experiments were deemed unsavory. Scarecrow himself doesn't really have a contrasting ideology with Batman, but what he does with his fear toxin is what makes him one of the best villains in a Batman story. In the episode, the fear toxin makes Bruce see his father, who keeps telling Bruce that he is a disgrace who failed his family.
You are a disgrace, hero.
Over the course of the episode, we see what impact this has on Bruce's psyche, and that's why when he finally overcomes the toxin, it feels so rewarding. Not only does Bruce or Batman beat Scarecrow in that moment, but he starts believing in himself again.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
The episode is not only great because of its striking imagery, but also because of this theme of failure which haunts Bruce. It might be the oldest storytelling device ever. Control your fear to win. But for a character like Batman, who strikes fear in the thugs of Gotham, it's not only a fitting theme, but it's a core part of his character. The symbol of the bat is there to strike fear in the villains, but also to give hope to the citizens of Gotham. He's afraid to fail his father, a man known for his charitable work and dedication to Gotham. And seeing Bruce realize that what he does as Batman is him realizing his father's legacy is incredibly impactful. Feet of Clay, the 2-part story of Clayface, is sympathetic towards the malleable man. The actor Matt Hagen has a terrible accident before the events of the 2 episodes, which leaves his face disfigured. However, through the usage of an experimental face cream, he's able to transform his face into any shape he'd like. As an actor, it's obviously an amazing invention which allows him to further his career after the accident. But he gets addicted to the cream as it's the only thing which keeps his dreams alive. Mr. Daggett, the man who gives Matt the cream, forces him to commit crimes, like impersonating Bruce Wayne, for example. These 2 episodes have a strong theme of addiction, dreams, and revenge. Matt doesn't seem like a bad guy at first. It could just as easily have been you or me who were in that accident. It could just as easily have been you or me who were treated with a drug which got us addicted. And once you're hooked, it's really hard to see that it's becoming a problem. Now, I'm obviously not saying that you or I would hurt anyone, but I think it's very easy to sympathize with Matt. Even after he's abused and turned into Clayface, he still, for the majority of the episodes, don't actually want to hurt anyone. He does lash out in anger, but not out of evil intent, and he even stops Mr. Daggett from releasing the product to the masses, stopping maybe hundreds or even thousands of people from getting the same addiction that he has. He is a villain. He hurts, he damages, he destroys. But if he did nothing bad with his life after the two-part story, he might have been the most sympathetic and reasonable villain in all of the show. It's actually kind of hard to choose which villain I will talk about last. There's Victor Fries and his unending love for his wife. There's Ra's al Ghul and his environmental goals. And there's Riddler, who's actually kinda based, I'm not gonna lie.
Gentlemen, then Mockridge becomes the only good corporate shark. A dead one.
But I'm gonna have to go with the antithesis to Batman himself, Two-Face. The two-parter Two-Face follows the theme of anger quite closely, but there's also the themes of failure and control. Harvey Dent fails to control his anger during his electoral campaign, and through talks with his therapist, we learn that he has a second personality, which is fueled by his anger. This second personality, Big Bad Harv, formed when Harvey as a child started to suppress his anger. The one time when Harvey lashed out in anger, he hurt another kid, and it was so shameful for him that he locked it away deep inside. Big Bad Harv uses chance to make choices. This removes the shame of the anger he feels and the feeling of failure when he makes a choice which hurts someone else. But in the episode we also get to see Bruce's anger at himself for failing to save Harvey from falling too deep within his own anger. This anger Bruce feels about failing to save someone he cares about obviously ties back to his anger of himself about failing to save his parents.
Why couldn't you save us, son?
After an accident, Harvey gets hurt and turns into Two-Face. No one, not Bruce, not even his fiancée, can turn Harvey back to himself, despite their best efforts. Harvey uses a coin to make choices, but it gets mixed up when Batman throws a bunch of other coins into the mix, and this leaves Two-Face unable to make a decision. This chaos, chance, good and evil, it's all a way for Harvey to try and control his anger, and it's really sad to see such an honest and just man be corrupted by a mental health crisis that he's brought with him from his childhood trauma. Two-Face and Batman are quite similar in that regard. They both are who they are because of things that happen in their childhood which is out of their control. The difference is that Bruce decided to take action and make something with his life, while Harvey allowed chance to be the deciding factor. Batman the Animated Series succeeded because of these easily digestible themes, which have a strong impact not only on children, but also adults. The best episodes are the ones where the villain, Batman, or another character get to express core parts of who they are. The ideological differences, the inherent kindness of Bruce, and the sympathy for people who are struggling allowed these themes to be developed and executed beautifully. While it's very nice to be able to sit down and relax with a 20-minute episode of quality content, sometimes what you really need is a full-length movie. A movie can have multiple themes. It can have intertwined overarching stories, and a series of movies can evolve a character, strengthening the viewer's connection to them. Christopher Nolan directed his Dark Knight trilogy, starting out with Batman Begins. It's the story of how Bruce became Batman, and it sets up his relationships, his future goals, and establishes him in the universe as a vigilante. The two main villains, Scarecrow and Falcone, convey the overarching theme of corruption. This is further explored in the way that Wayne Enterprises is being run by its stakeholders, as well as in Ra's al Ghul's twisted way of thinking. The first 40 minutes of the movie shows Bruce at his lowest, his origin story, and it shows how he's trying to learn his place in the world, while it also presents Ra's al Ghul as a mentor figure. We see Bruce fight criminals in prisons. We see how Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows teach him how to fight, and we see his childhood through the lens of fear, anger, hate, and suffering. A broken Bruce who is ready to seek justice for his parents is pushed by Rachel and Falcone to become a better man. After years of traveling, living with nothing, and learning the value of human life, Bruce is picked up by Ra's. When faced with the decision to take another man's life, we are introduced to a righteous and strong-willed side of Bruce, which would have been corrupted if not for his experiences. Coming back to Gotham, he finds that the city, the people, and even his own company is being corrupted. He creates the persona of Batman not only to fight against injustice, but also to fight corruption. We get to see Bruce's self-image and how he compares himself to his father, someone who he and a lot of other people believe to be the pinnacle of an honest and just man. This, together with his run-ins with Scarecrow, show us his fear of failing his father, failing Gotham, and becoming corrupted. This is why Scarecrow is, in general, one of Batman's greatest foes. Scarecrow forces Batman to be the most interesting version of himself in his stories because of the strong theme fear creates for the character. It doesn't have to be family or failure, but whatever that specific version of Batman fears the most is going to be the core part of his character, and Scarecrow just lays it all out there for everyone to see. After finding Scarecrow and spraying him with his own fear toxin, Batman learns that Ra's al Ghul is still alive, and that he is the one giving orders. Ra's comes to Gotham and reveals that his plan is to use Scarecrow's fear toxin to destroy the city. There is a battle between Batman and Ra's, where Batman leaves Ra's to die in a train crash. I do feel a bit sad about the ending of Batman Begins. Ra's didn't die because of an action Batman did, but he did die because of Batman's inaction. No matter how Bruce justifies this to himself by saying,
"I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you,"
it's still a conscious choice to allow Ra's to die. To me, this just kinda goes against the entire theme of the movie. Bruce went from being ready to kill the man who made him an orphan to doing whatever he could to protect everyone. Not even attempting to save Ra's, to me feels like Bruce is falling back into that original mindset, falling for the corruption that has spread throughout the city. Despite the somewhat disappointing ending, I still believe that this is a very good movie because of its overarching theme of corruption. It also sets up Batman as an incorruptible symbol, which perfectly ties together with The Dark Knight. The movie starts with Heath Ledger's Joker robbing a bank. Ledger's Joker will always be in the top ranks of Joker adaptations, and using him in this story was the only way to make this character shine in this trilogy. The Dark Knight has this main theme of chaos versus order. It's quite a typical theme for a Joker versus Batman story. But this theme is further enhanced by Two-Face, whose entire character is based around walking the line between chaos and order. Chance having such an unstructured and unreliable outcome in certain ways makes Two-Face an even more chaotic villain than even the Joker. Rachel, Bruce's main love interest, is together with Harvey, who is planning to lock up over 500 thugs and mafia leaders. Because of his fame, Harvey becomes a target for Joker, who kidnaps both Harvey and Rachel. The Joker in The Dark Knight has this very simple motive, which Alfred adequately puts,
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Harvey and Rachel are both locked up in rooms filled with oil drums. Joker gives Batman the locations to both of them, but only Harvey is saved, being badly burned on half of his body in the process. Joker's plans aren't always very well described or presented to us as viewers, but we know he will always deliver on his promises, and he will always take the path of most chaos. He will end anyone who stands in his way. He doesn't even care about the money, and everything he does is
Sending a message.
Dent is in a hospital room where Joker is able to taunt him, and at this point Harvey loses his mind and becomes Two-Face. Part of the Joker's chaos is presented through the way he chooses his victims. He starts out by taking out some important people like the Commissioner, Dent, and a judge, but then he moves over to targeting entire hospitals of regular citizens. Two-Face, however, shows his chaos through the fact that he can change his plans on a whim, by the flip of a coin, one might say. Joker does a lot of things throughout the movie, but maybe most memorable is the evacuation of Gotham. Two ships are leaving Gotham, one filled with criminals while the other is filled with regular citizens. Both ships receive remote detonators for explosives, which will explode the other ship. Joker intends to show the world and Batman that anyone could end up just as mad as him if they just end up in the correct circumstances. But when neither of the ships use the detonator, he's proven wrong. The citizens of Gotham shows that the chaos that Joker spreads around him is his own, and that Gotham is built by good people. The theme of chaos is the perfect capsulation of the story in The Dark Knight. Bruce's relationship with Rachel, Joker's motives and plans, and even Gotham's public opinion on Batman are all chaotic and culminates in the supposed killing of Harvey, which turns Gotham against Batman. Harvey is seen as the White Knight of Gotham after he's able to convict these 500 thugs and criminals. But as Two-Face, Harvey kidnaps Jim Gordon's family and is about to kill Jim's son. Batman is able to stop Two-Face, but pushes him to his death in the process. This brings the issue of Harvey's convictions. If he is outed as a villain, his status as the White Knight, as well as his convictions, would all be revoked. Bruce takes on the responsibility of ending Harvey, because he can handle the pain, the injustice, the chaos that this decision brings upon him, for the future of Gotham City. The movie is enhanced because of this overarching theme of chaos, but it's also just a great movie, which leaves us begging for more. And more we got in Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. Personally, I find The Dark Knight Rises to be the least interesting in this trilogy. I'm not saying it's bad, but it falls into the category of mainly being about cool gadgets, a sad backstory, and having a distinct bad guy. Bane is a fine villain, or at least he can be a fine villain, but this version of Bane can't really carry this entire story by himself. The previous two movies had two main villains throughout, and while Batman had both Alfred and Lucius Fox, he still had to deal with the dangers of said villains alone. In The Dark Knight Rises, Catwoman is introduced, which not only gives Batman an ally, but also a love interest. Robin acts as the good cop who has personal stakes in taking care of some of the most exposed inhabitants of the city, the orphans. And while the movie adds 2 new heroes, it simultaneously removes a main villain. This version of Bane doesn't really create any ideological stakes for Batman. We also don't really learn anything new about Batman's fears, wants, and ways of thinking. There are a lot of really exciting moments throughout the movie, and it plays a lot with the idea of being at the lowest of lows before getting back up again, but it's hard to call that a theme. Rising tension, contrasting the low points with the climax and character arcs, are just typical storytelling techniques, and they are not really typical themes the same way that chaos and corruption were from the 2 previous movies. I think you could argue that it is a theme, but to me it's less compelling either way because it presents less inner turmoil. And further, it's less of an overarching theme and more just individual moments that hit on this specific idea. Bane wants to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's dreams of destroying Gotham. As Batman confronts Bane, Bane is able to break Batman's back and send him to the pit, a prison inside a pit. This is where Bruce is at his lowest, but by working on both his body and mentality, he's able to escape the pit and return to Gotham. It's a very satisfying moment when Bruce is able to escape, but that idea of being able to get back up after being at your lowest point is already over. To truly make the theme of being knocked down and then coming back up to work, you would have to focus on the personal aspects of the story, the incorruptibility of Batman, and all of the people who died despite his best efforts. Talia al Ghul is revealed to be the mastermind behind Bane's plans, but she's not revealed to be a villain until way into the movie, and even as she is revealed, she doesn't add anything to Bane's plans, and she doesn't change the narrative in any meaningful way. Before the twist, she's just kind of a half-assed love interest, and I assume that the betrayal is supposed to be impactful, but there's not enough history between Talia and Bruce for it to be meaningful. After the reveal, Talia and Bane's goals are still to destroy Gotham with a nuclear bomb. If the movie had focused on Bruce's guilt about not saving Harvey, Rachel, and maybe even Ra's, pushing him towards wanting to put down the mantle as Batman, that could have worked well to further the theme of being at your lowest and getting back up. Hitting harder at the mistakes of Bruce's father, giving Bruce the storyline with the orphans, and contrasting Talia's childhood with Bruce's, we could have explored different redemption arcs. A movie like that would have better tied together with the 2 previous movies, and it would have created an interesting contrast between Talia and Bruce, since both of them would have been blaming Bruce for the death of Ra's. If Talia outed herself as the mastermind behind the plans, and Bane was just the muscle earlier in the movie, she could have slowly withered down Bruce's confidence, which then in turn would make his heroic act of saving the city heroic, not only because he saves the people, but also because he saves himself. Talia and Bane capture Batman, but as Talia goes to fetch the nuclear bomb, Catwoman shows up and shoots Bane. Batman chases after Talia, and she dies during the chase, and Batman sacrifices himself by flying the bomb out across the water, away from the city. Talia and Bruce's relationship feels underdeveloped. The movie's need to have Catwoman be part of it and also be a love interest just makes Talia and Bruce's relationship weaker. The movie lacks an actual theme of love, or even forbidden love, which usually works so well with these characters. Bruce and Talia can have a very interesting relationship in the correct circumstances, like the ones in Arkham City. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The Arkham series of games started in 2009 with Batman Arkham Asylum. The game is a linear action-adventure where Batman has to fight, think, and investigate to save Gotham. The game starts out with Batman bringing in the Joker to the asylum. We quickly learn that this is part of Joker's plans as he takes control over the asylum and releases the other inmates. Joker has been using a doctor to create the T-virus. Oh, sorry, I mean the Titan compound. Titan is a serum which turns regular humans into Titans, similar to how Bane uses a steroid serum to gain inhuman strength. Joker's end goal is simply just to take over Gotham with his army of Titans. The Arkham series doesn't really focus on one singular theme, but rather the large villain gallery showcases a lot of unique different themes. In Arkham Asylum, Batman needs to protect the guards and doctors, find a cure for the Titan virus, and find a way to stop Joker's plans. It is a pretty basic story, but what makes the Arkham games so special is their extensive villain gallery. In Arkham Asylum, Batman interacts with a small yet effective roster of some of his most classic adversaries. Bane and Killer Croc, while large and powerful, mainly acts as roadblocks in the story, Bane being a test subject for the Titan virus and Killer Croc protecting part of the cure for the serum. Scarecrow has a slightly larger role in the story as he's part of creating the Titan virus, but when facing off with Batman, his toxins show Batman's worst fear of losing his loved ones and failing his parents' legacy. In the grand scheme of the gameplay, he's also more of a roadblock, but damn if he doesn't create intrigue. He also has these visually stunning set pieces where you have to actively fight off the fear toxin. The theme of fear is always interesting, especially in a Batman story, and this version of Scarecrow works perfectly to make this theme succeed. He is weak and frail, but with his fear toxin, Scarecrow becomes a big threat that only a strong-willed person can defeat. Having the player fight off the fear toxin is such a nice touch, which in a perfect way embodies Batman's resolve. Poison Ivy has the secret to curing Titan, and she sends Batman on a fetch quest to the sewers where you face off with Killer Croc. Ivy ends up having her plant powers boosted as well by the Titan virus, and you end up having a boss battle against her. I'm a big fan of Ivy as a character. She tends to have this the ends justifies the means approach to her plant life preservation. This goes well with Batman's contrasting sense of justice. Essentially, what Ivy is doing is the same as Batman. They just have different goals, and Ivy uses more deadly means to achieve those goals. The character of Ivy, I feel like, creates this interesting dichotomy between her and Batman. We can see how both of their goals are just, but the way they achieve those goals are conflicting. Ivy's dedication to her plants can only be classified as love, and the theme of love works really well for her character, even if it's not love for another person. Harley and Joker. Yes, I'm lumping them together for this one, because they serve the same goal. Neither provides a unique theme. Like usual, it's chaos. But there is an interesting conclusion. Batman and Joker both get infected by Titan, and while Joker allows himself to turn, Batman fights against the serum, showing his incorruptibility. Batman cures himself, and is still able to beat Joker with his mind, his gadgets, and his selflessness. Once again, not the most unique theme, but still quite an effective one. The Clown Prince of Chaos faces the incorruptibility of Batman. At the end of Arkham Asylum, the island is overrun by Ivy's plants, and to contain the villains and thugs, Quincy Sharp establishes Arkham City. Arkham City is a walled-off portion of the north of Gotham, a combination of supervillains, common thugs, and political prisoners are locked within its confines. The game starts with Bruce Wayne being ushered into the city. After fighting off Penguin and a few of his thugs, Bruce is able to quickly suit up and now is allowed to roam the districts of Arkham City.
Protocol 10 will commence in 10 hours.
Arkham City expands on the usage of different villains, introducing side quests where you can interact with different game mechanics and characters. It's essentially a tight-knit open-world game where you can explore and pursue different villains in almost any order. Bane, the Identity Killer, and Victor Sass all have their own unique storylines, which require you to solve different problems. Some of these side missions don't really have any themes attached, because Batman's interactions with these villains tend to be quite limited. But they're fun. The main story sees Batman trying to find a cure for a different virus that the Joker has spread to every hospital in Gotham. Joker's ill from the Titan virus he used, and he infects Batman with his blood, which forces Batman to find the cure for both of them.
Protocol 10 will commence in 9 hours.
Joker coerced Victor Fries to start development on the cure by kidnapping Freeze's wife, Nora. Freeze is one of my personal favorite villains in the game. He truly loves his wife and would do anything to get her back. Similarly to Ivy in Arkham Asylum, it's hard not to sympathize with him despite him having hurt people and is now helping Joker. For Freeze, the underlying theme is love. What are you willing to do for love? How far are you willing to go to save someone? This love is also mirrored in Batman himself, through his love for Gotham and the people around him. What is Batman willing to sacrifice for the city and his loved ones? After finding Victor Fries, you learn that the cure needs a specific enzyme to work. An enzyme which Batman knows Ra's al Ghul has in his blood.
Protocol 10 will commence in 5 hours.
Traveling to Wonder City, an old underground part of Gotham, he finds Talia and Ra's al Ghul. Talia and Bruce have had relations previously, and Talia really wants Bruce to take over as the leader of the League of Shadows. I love this dynamic. To become the leader of the League, Batman would have to take a life, which obviously is something he won't do. Bruce does really like Talia. That much is clear, and this theme of incorruptibility and restraint works really well. Add on top of that Bruce is currently dying because of Joker's virus flowing through his veins. Becoming the leader of the League would allow him eternal life. Not only would it allow Batman to finish his work in Arkham City, but Ra's also pushes the narrative that Batman could do so much good with eternal life.
The blood of the demon has allowed me to live for 600 years. Imagine the good that you could do with such a gift.
Because of this, Batman's restraint and devotion to his ideology is very powerful to see.
Protocol 10 will commence in 30 minutes.
After a battle with Ra's, Bruce is able to bring back the blood to Freeze, who creates a cure. But Harley Quinn steals the cure.
Protocol 10 will commence in 10 minutes.
Batman goes to confront the Joker, but as they're talking, the entire building falls down upon them, trapping Batman. right before Joker is able to end Batman, Talia steps in and trades Bruce's life for giving Joker eternal life.
Free Batman, and we will give you the secret of immortality.
Batman is stuck under rubble, unable to save himself. The only person in Arkham City who might consider helping him, Catwoman, has left the city with 2 briefcases of cash.
Let Protocol 10 commence.
Batman is stuck under rubble, unable to save himself. Catwoman sees this, and despite her longing for riches, she drops her briefcases of cash and saves Batman. During the game, Batman learns about Protocol 10, a secret plan by Hugo Strange. Strange wants to be better than Batman, and he wants to be remembered as the man who saved Gotham. To do this, Protocol 10 is the total extermination of everyone inside Arkham City. After being saved by Catwoman, Batman has a hard time choosing between saving Talia or stopping Protocol 10.
Strange is launching missile strikes on Arkham City from Wonder Tower. You shut this place down. Joker's taken Talia. I'm going after them.
You can't. Hundreds will be killed.
He'll kill Talia.
You need to think this through. Batman can't let all these people die.
But luckily, he's convinced by Oracle to stop the massacre. I'm personally not a huge fan of this, because to me, Batman should always be ready to make the choice of saving many lives over the life of one. Some inner turmoil is great, but the Arkham Batman would have saved Talia over all of the people in Arkham City if it weren't for the people around him. And to me, this just feels wrong. This also ties back to Victor Fries and his love for his wife. Batman is now in a similar situation, and what should make him different from Fries is being able to recognize the value of all the lives in Arkham City, and choose to save them over Talia. Anyways, Batman fights his way to Strange's center of operations. Here we learn that Raish is behind Hugo Strange's plans. Strange, after being stabbed in the back by Raish, orders Protocol 11 to commence.
Computer, activate Protocol 11.
Passcode Wayne.
Strange was smart enough to set up a self-destruct sequence in the case of Raish's betrayal. Batman tries to save Raish, but he ends up stabbed by both his own sword and also a fence post. With Protocol 10 over, there's only one more thing to do. Save Talia. Joker has kidnapped Talia, but as Batman enters, Talia is able to get the upper hand and stabs the Joker. What no one expected was the
fake Joker gang!
It turns out that the real Joker has hired Clayface to be a stand-in, and during this reveal, Talia gets shot. After a quick boss battle with Clayface, Batman is able to drink half of the cure, saving the rest for Joker. But in his greed, Joker makes Batman drop the vial, and the cure soaks in to the floor. Batman tells Joker that, despite everything, he would have given him the cure.
Do you want to know something funny? Even after everything you've done, I would have saved you.
Joker has one final laugh before his life fades away. This might be the best ending of any Batman game. It combines a couple of twists with the inner turmoil of Batman and the unexpected death of the Clown Prince of Chaos. Protocol 10 brings up multiple challenges for Batman. Who does he save? Why does he do what he does? And what is he willing to sacrifice? The conclusion with Joker is also incredibly impactful. Knowing that despite Joker killing someone who Batman loved, he still would have given him the cure. The emptiness of Joker's last laugh and the psychological toll that Joker's death has on Bruce is powerful. Batman without the Joker feels wrong. They're supposed to be like an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object. This feeling comes from Joker, whose chaos is always going to haunt Batman, and Batman's unwavering sense of justice which stops him from killing Joker. There is a sense of grief for Joker. The theme of good versus evil can only work if there is an evil to fight against. And while Batman wasn't the same after the events of Arkham City, he still had to face a new evil in Arkham Knight. The stories of Arkham Knight are the most expansive, includes the most amount of villains, and acts as a final chapter for the Arkhamverse. The in-game world is about 5 times the size of Arkham City, spanning the 3 islands of Gotham being Bleak, Miagani, and Founders Island. It all starts with Scarecrow coming back after his disappearance in Arkham Asylum. He's back with a stronger toxin, a full-scale plan, and a way cooler outfit. Batman needs to stop Scarecrow from releasing his toxins citywide, which leads him to Ivy. Batman learns that Ivy is immune to Scarecrow's toxin when he saves her from some of Scarecrow's thugs. And this is where the game takes a turn to become truly open world. There are 15 main missions in Arkham Knight, all of them which lead you to a main villain in one way or another. All of them aren't available to you at the start, but because of the size of the world and the amount of different quests, there's always a lot of things you can do. Other than a few missions that are tied to the main story, you can start almost any quest at any time. Some of them you'll just stumble upon, while others require more detective work. Scarecrow creates his toxin at Ace Chemicals, and is about to set off a bomb of fear gas. While saving some of the few remaining workers, Batman stumbles upon the second main antagonist of the game, the Arkham Knight. The Arkham Knight speaks as if he knows Batman, and yet Batman can't figure out who the masked villain is. All Batman knows is that the Arkham Knight is in charge of the militia, which is now in control of Gotham. But for now, there's no time to think about the Arkham Knight's identity. Batman confronts Scarecrow, but Scarecrow reveals that he has kidnapped Oracle as he escapes.
Nothing hurts like losing one of the family, knowing that there is no one to blame but yourself.
There is no off button on the toxin explosion, but there are neutralizing agents which could help reduce the blast radius. But if he doesn't succeed, Batman will die. This sequence is almost perfect in my opinion. It's almost the exact opposite of the Talia Protocol 10 situation in Arkham City. Here, Batman could have stopped and gone to save Oracle, but instead he decides to stay and sacrifice himself for the entire eastern seaboard. The situation is further intensified by the warning signals going off, Alfred in Batman's communications begging Bruce to save himself, and the fact that you need to move slowly for the neutralizing agents to stay intact.
Sir, listen to me. Don't you see? This is what he wants. Without you, Gotham will be at his mercy. You cannot let him win.
Every second feels important, and yet you have to take your time. I love the self-sacrifice and the emotions stirred up during this sequence, but it's also the point where we get to see the influence of Joker once again. In Arkham City, Joker explains that he has sent his blood to every hospital in Gotham, his blood of course containing a virus. After the events of Arkham City, Batman made sure to remove all of the blood from all of the hospitals, yet 5 people were infected. This means that in Arkham Knight, you have to find a different cure for a different virus spread by the Joker, which this time allows his personality to take over the control of the body of the incubator. I feel like I'm sensing a pattern here. Of course, Bruce is also infected, and right as he is about to reduce the blast radius to 0, the image of Joker shows up and stops him. Batman wakes up and at the final moment is able to escape the chemical plant. Oracle, who Scarecrow kidnaps, is actually Barbara Gordon, Jim Gordon's daughter. And Jim of course blames Batman for her disappearance. Gordon, who to some degree has been like a father figure to Bruce, cuts contact with Batman. This goes back to the theme of family. Not only is Gordon's family gone, but Bruce also lost part of his family in both Oracle and Jim. This theme is continued throughout the story, and it probably is the best overarching theme in any of the games. While Batman obviously wants to save the city from Scarecrow's toxin, saving Oracle is what makes him more dangerous than ever before. Also taking into account that, at least in his mind, this could be his one chance to redeem himself after the death of his parents, this theme just hits home on so many different levels. Batman learns from Simon Stagg that Scarecrow is working on the so-called Cloudburst. It's a weapon that will spread Scarecrow's fear toxin across a large landmass. Shortly after, Scarecrow is able to spray Bruce with some of his fear toxin, allowing Joker's personality to take control over Batman's body for just a short time. Basically, Joker can control Bruce's body while the toxin is having its effect, because Joker doesn't fear anything, while Batman fears failure and losing his loved ones. Once again, Scarecrow escapes, but he sends Batman after Oracle. Scarecrow has trapped Oracle in a confined room with a gun and pumped the room full with his toxin. In her fear-induced madness, she ends up shooting herself. A heartbroken Bruce collects Ivy. Since she's immune to the toxin, she can help disperse the inevitable cloudburst. Ivy decides to help Batman to save the plants of Gotham. Suddenly, Robin, who has been working on the cure for Joker, sends a crisis alert that Harley is at the research lab. After capturing Harley, this is where Batman and Robin are faced with the death of 4 of the Joker-infected patients, and Robin learns that Batman is the last one infected. Batman was supposed to lock himself up, but after realizing that he's the only one strong enough to stop the cloudburst, he locks up Robin instead. The cloudburst spreads fear toxin all across the streets of Gotham, but of course Bruce is able to destroy the cloudburst, and Ivy sacrifices herself to clean the streets from the fear toxin. This arc of Ivy's character just makes so much sense to me, and I really like it. She is consistently only worried about one thing: the plants. Her plants. She is truly part of nature, and her self-sacrifice is not only heroic, but arguably it redeems her. She did only do it for herself. She would have sacrificed herself for the plants at any time, but that doesn't make it any less meaningful, and it did feel, at least to me, that she did have a slight change of heart. This theme of love has been with Ivy since Arkham Asylum. Her devotion to her plans and keeping them safe is key to her character. Seeing this self-sacrifice just feels like the perfect way to tie her story together. With the Cloudburst dealt with, there's only two more things to do. Find Scarecrow and take down the militia. On his way to Scarecrow, Batman runs into the Arkham Knight again, who has kidnapped Gordon. But this time, the Arkham Knight makes sure that Batman knows that this is personal, as he's unmasked. The Arkham Knight is Jason Todd, the Lost Robin. For some, this twist might have been visible from miles away, but I think it still works really well, even if it's obvious for some Batman fans. Jason acted as Robin after Dick Grayson, who later became Nightwing. Before the events of Arkham Asylum, Jason had had enough of Joker's killings and went after him alone, but got trapped and imprisoned. During his imprisonment, Joker would torture Jason both physically and psychologically. During the Arkham Asylum incident, Jason was finally able to escape, but he was badly wounded and had a deep hatred for Batman. The man he fought had left him to rot at the hands of Joker. Batman believed that Jason had died, and this reveal is such a shock for him. I really think that this works really well here. I think Jason's hatred is, at least to some degree, justified, and I love the humanity in both of their reactions as Bruce tries to connect with Jason. This also continues the theme of family. Knowing the pain that Batman feels when losing a loved one, and the shame he must feel for having failed Jason, is heartbreaking. Right after losing both Oracle and Jim, this is just another gut punch to Bruce's sense of self-doubt, and Jason's change is almost like losing him over again. Jason escapes, no longer set on killing Batman, but also not quite back to his old self. After helping Jim, Batman and Gordon face off against Scarecrow on the roof. Here, yet another twist unfolds. Oracle is alive, and he has been using Oracle to manipulate Jim. Jim is forced to shoot Batman to save Oracle. But even as Jim does it, Scarecrow just throws her off the roof. When Jim shot Batman, he aimed for where his armor is the thickest, which allowed Batman not only to save Oracle, but also continue his work unharmed. Scarecrow orders a siege on the GCPD building, but as Batman is cleaning up the thugs, he learns that Scarecrow has gone after Robin. The only way to save Robin is to give himself over to Scarecrow, which Batman of course does without hesitation. This is Bruce trying to redeem himself after what happened with Jason Todd. He's not gonna allow it to happen to Tim Drake as well. On the way to Scarecrow, Joker manipulates Bruce's mind, forces Bruce to see his parents, and makes him confront the death of Joker by forcing Bruce to kill him. In Joker's hallucination, he taunts Bruce. He taunts him about the people who he might kill, the ones who he's already hurt, like Jason Todd, and he acts as if Batman's dedication to life is a weakness.
Who will I kill next? Gordon? Lucius? That bumbling old butler of yours? Everyone close to you gets tortured, kidnapped, or killed.
I feel like I've run out of ways to say that this is an amazing part of the game, but this is a standout scene in the entire series, at least to me. Bruce is standing in the alley where his parents were murdered, with the crime prince of chaos, who has killed hundreds if not thousands and left others in the same situation as Bruce. Joker slowly taking over Batman's mind, using his shame, fear, and anger against him. It's hard to find a more fitting place, time, or reason for Batman to lose his incorruptibility for just a second. Batman is taken to Scarecrow, who has brought Gordon and Robin to Arkham Asylum. Scarecrow forces Jim to remove Batman's cowl in front of a camera broadcasting to the entire world. It's an emotional scene where Batman, Jim, Robin, everyone who knows Batman's secret identity knows that this will be the end of the Batman. Scarecrow injects Bruce with his fear toxin as he claims that the fear Batman instills on the thugs will be gone when they now know who he truly is. Showing the people of Gotham that their savior isn't as tough or fearless as they thought will make them lose trust in the symbol of hope. However, similarly to how previously when Bruce was gassed with the fear toxin, Joker is able to take his place. Joker acts like he doesn't fear anything and laughs in the face of Scarecrow, but then we get to see the inside of Joker's mind. At first he acts almighty and in control, but then we get to see deeper within him and we see his one fear, being forgotten. During this sequence there's also the visual representation of Batman fighting back against both Joker and Scarecrow's fear toxin. As the sequence finishes, Batman captures Joker, puts him behind bars in his mind, and lets go of his fear.
You're afraid of being forgotten. And you will be forgotten, Joker. Because of me. I am vengeance.
I am the Knight. I am Batman.
No, Max, wait! No, please! No!
Goodbye, Joker.
No, Bruce! Don't leave me! Please! I need you.
While I believe that Arkham City has a stronger ending overall, I still think that this is a very strong end for the entire Arkham storyline. Joker has been the main antagonist for 2 games and has now inserted himself in Bruce's mind. Joker was literally part of Bruce, and having their story tied together with Batman moving on, putting down the mantle, and not allowing Joker to have any power over him anymore, is very satisfying. As Bruce defeats Joker and overcomes his fear, there's nothing for Scarecrow to do other than kill Batman, but he's stopped by the Red Hood, also known as Jason Todd. Finally, Batman gives Scarecrow a taste of his own medicine, and the theme of fear comes full circle as we learn that Scarecrow's biggest fear is the Batman. As far as the theme of family goes, this feels like the final piece of the puzzle. Jason, while maybe not ready to forgive Batman, at least can find it within himself to help him, showing that maybe Bruce didn't fail him. Jim and Batman saving Robin is also such a nice touch, showing the healing between Bruce and Gordon, while also giving Bruce the chance to redeem himself for what happened to Jason. As Scarecrow is handed over to the police, Batman and Alfred discuss what's happening next. Batman's decision is to commence Protocol Nightfall. The Nightfall Protocol is Batman's last resort to keeping his family safe, but before it can commence, there are a few loose ends to tie up. In the game there are 15 different missions, one of them being the main story, which leads to the capture of Scarecrow. 4 of the missions bring you towards Deathstroke, who takes control over the militia after the Arkham Knight. 9 of the other missions lead you to another most wanted criminal like Penguin, Two-Face or Hush. And then there's one mission about Azrael, a man who wants to be the heir to Batman. Some of these missions have good added themes, like Astral storyline, which has the theme of autonomy, making your own choices, while Deathstroke, for example, is only there for added gameplay. But Batman Arkham Knight also has some of the best DLCs. It not only adds multiple different stories for some of the main characters, but it also adds 4 new main villains with some of the best themes in the game. Mr. Freeze is back, but this time after Nora has been kidnapped, she thaws enough to be able to communicate with Freeze. She says she wants to live her last few days together with Victor, be able to hold him, express her love, not be in a frozen state for years upon years.
I don't want you to die, Nora.
Then let me live.
Victor accepts this by the end, and it's a heartbreaking yet wholesome moment which ties together this theme of love. The man who spent so much time, did horrible things and lost himself in his work, realizes that the best thing he can do is just love his wife the way she is. Killer Croc gets his own theme of brutality. Yes, Croc is a brute who brutalizes others, but there's also the brutality shown by the police. Croc was being experimented on in an unregulated environment, in an unsafe environment, and without consent, simply because he was a prisoner. He is still a pretty bad guy and he should definitely be in prison, but being a monster doesn't have to mean growing monstrous features, but sometimes someone with a lot of power and abuse their authority can be monstrous. The DLC also added Ra's al Ghul, who we believed died in Arkham City, but his followers collected his body and have slowly been nurturing him since. His wounds are still too deep, and he needs Batman to help him survive. This situation is quite similar to the situation in Arkham City with Joker. Batman has a cure which he can decide to give to someone who is very deeply evil. Ra's daughter Nyssa even tells Batman to not give him the cure, and in the end, you, the player, have the choice of either administering the cure or destroying the life-saving Lazarus Pit.
You weren't a good man, Ra's, but you had conviction.
Stop him! Kill him!
The question is simply, is Ra's even alive, or is he just living? Does destroying the Lazarus Pit equal taking a life? Either way, after rounding up all the villains, there's actually one more thing left to do. There is actually one more villain that I haven't really mentioned yet, despite being quite prevalent through the Arkhamverse. The Riddler. The Riddler is present in all of the Arkham games. In Arkham Asylum, his main reason for existing is just to give the player more things to do across the map and areas, while in Arkham City and Arkham Knight, he's given a larger role. Riddler's main theme is inferiority, or superiority. It's definitely either, or both. In any case, the whole point is that Riddler's only reason is to prove his genius. All over the maps, there are riddle trophies to pick up, puzzles to solve, and riddles to scan. Across the games, there is a shift in his personality. Yes, he's always eccentric and gloating, but the more trophies and riddles Batman solves, the more his inferiority complex comes to the surface. At the end of Arkham City, Batman captures Riddler and puts him in one of his own unbeatable puzzles. In Arkham Knight, Batman needs to save Catwoman from Riddler by completing his puzzles, and together they're able to take the Riddler down, even though he has rigged the final puzzle against Batman. Riddler, or Enigma, is a very interesting character to me. He doesn't need any thugs. He doesn't care about power struggles between the different gangs, and his only real reason is to prove Batman's inferiority to himself. I think maybe I can relate to Nigma, at least to some extent, because I also have this fear of being worse than others. Growing up as a smart kid makes the idea of making intellectual mistakes incredibly anxiety-inducing. Riddler just happens to also be insane. But I do think that this version of Riddler might be able to come around, or at least become a bit less dangerous with a lot of therapy. And that's not something that I can say about any of the other main villains. The Arkham games mean a lot to me. They introduced me to a darker, more brutal version of Batman, and being able to contain multiple stories, themes, and still create a fun game is incredibly impressive. Characters like Joker, Ivy, and Freeze, whose storylines stretch over multiple games, makes the universe feel coherent. The stories being able to use the same theme in multiple different ways and still tie it together in the end is incredibly satisfying. The Arkham series truly makes you feel like Batman. The Arkhamverse is one of the grittiest versions of Batman in a moving media, maybe only surpassed by The Batman.
The Batman is dark. Not only visually, but in its storytelling as well. It centers around the themes of anger and vengeance. Every character is angry, has some sort of trauma, and is searching for some kind of retribution. Batman is already established in the universe as a vigilante, but he's almost feared more by the police than the thugs, and there's very little trust in him by the officers. In the story, we see a Batman who is almost mocked by the thugs of Gotham. They don't fear him, they're angry. Corruption is, of course, another major theme, but the corruption fuels the anger. Riddler, the main antagonist, attacks people he deems rats, people in positions of power who fail Gotham every day. Batman is quite clever. He solves a majority of Riddler's riddles quite quickly, and a large portion of the movie is concerning his detective work. During his investigation, Batman runs into Selina Kyle. Selina is looking for her friend who is presumed kidnapped, and she helps Batman to gain some information. Selina's rage comes from a lifetime of suffering after the death of her mother at the hands of Falcone. Through their investigation, Batman and Selina learns that Falcone killed Selina's friend when she learned some crucial information about him. Selina also revealed that Falcone is her father, further complicating the entire situation. Selina's goal changes throughout the movie, from escaping with her friend to killing the man who is behind all of her suffering. Selina works really well in this story, and her anger is beautifully paired with Bruce's own anger. They are both orphans in some ways. They are both angry at the people responsible for their suffering, and they are both looking for vengeance. The main difference between them, other than their economical background, is that Selina knows who caused her all of her suffering. Bruce goes after every criminal in Gotham because he is lucky enough to be mad at the concept of criminals, while Selina has a very specific person to blame for everything. During the film, Bruce is portrayed as an angry, privileged kid who fails to see what he has. Alfred, his loving and caring butler, has to take a few gut punches and even an explosion to the face before Bruce realizes how important he actually is to him. Bruce admits to Alfred that he was afraid of losing him.
he felt that same fear he felt when he lost his parents. While the movie's main themes are anger, corruption, and vengeance, this theme of family gives the story a little bit of levity and some added depth. During the fight against Riddler, Bruce becomes even more angry, as he learns about the failures of his father, the corruption of the underworld, and the struggles of everyday people in Gotham. Riddler is the soul of the movie. Without him, the status quo would stay the same. He also has a rage in him, and while during the movie we believe he's motivated by ending corruption, we learn that his true motive is vengeance. Riddler himself was an orphan, forgotten by the city, which then in turn fueled his anger. Seeing the horrible circumstances of the foster care system firsthand, as well as the failure of the politicians to protect children like himself, set Riddler down the path of vengeance. He planned out the events of the movie to destroy those who he blames for his suffering. Seeing the main three characters all have their own version of anger, hate, and suffering creates for quite an interesting contrast between them. Riddler's mind, which could have done great things for people in need, people like himself, if he just used the anger for good. Bruce, whose upbringing makes it impossible for him to understand both Selina and Riddler, but yet his anger is understandable. Selina, who might be the most sympathetic, who, despite her anger, changes her mind before the elimination of Falcone. Bruce feels broken. Looking for vengeance is his only cause in the beginning of the film, and he needs all of these experiences to learn what Gotham needs and what he needs. By the end, he turns his anger into determination, and his vengeance into vigilance. Selina infiltrates and has a battle against Falcone, but Batman shows up and stops her from shooting the man who brought her all of that pain. Batman saves her from making a mistake which would have crushed her from the inside. She didn't have to fall to Falcone's level, and I doubt she would have felt much catharsis even if she did deal the final blow. Falcone is taken out by the Riddler himself, who then gives up his freedom. Riddler's plans are finished, or at least almost. Riddler has planted bombs across Gotham which flood the streets as they go off. He sets the entire city in chaos. This is where Bruce finally realizes who he is, what he needs to be. He's not vengeance. He's the Dark Knight, a symbol of hope for a greater Gotham. Both of our heroes change over the course of the film. Both Selina and Bruce realizes that their anger and vengeance is misplaced. Riddler, on the other hand, ends the movie crying in his cell at Arkham, still holding on to that anger and a need to assert vengeance. The overarching themes of anger and vengeance connect the main characters, ties the stories together, and creates inherent interest and contrast between the main characters. Bruce, over the course of the movie, lets go of some of his anger, starts showing fear again, and changes his mindset to be protect the people of Gotham rather than destroy the criminals. Selina, with no attachments to the world, sees Falcone die and realizes that only she can end the cycle of suffering. Riddler, who uses his suffering to harm others, justifies this by invalidating others' pain and is unwilling to change. It's probably the best Batman movie, at least in my mind, and while the end of it teased Joker as an upcoming villain, I believe a third movie with Scarecrow as the main villain could become the best superhero movie ever made. Bruce, already having shown that fear still affects him, could make a Scarecrow story hit even harder. Themes can keep a story on track, create contrast between different characters, and deepen a viewer's understanding of individual motivations. Easily digestible themes make it possible for media with a shorter runtime to fully develop an impactful story. But it also allows a plot to establish itself in a long-running series with overarching themes which tie together multiple stories. Different characters embody themes in different ways. How a hero reacts can be very different from how a villain reacts, but sometimes the most interesting stories are the ones where the hero and the villain react in the same way. A strong theme doesn't only present what makes a hero good or a villain bad, but also the struggles they face, create inner conflict, and expand upon their motivations to develop the characters to be fully fledged and believable. A theme can be tangible, discussed between the characters and understood by the ones experiencing it. But a theme can also be abstract, permeating a story without ever being acknowledged by the characters. Batman and his large number of villains, sidekicks, and iterations thrive on strong themes, which force the characters into situations where they have to change, grow, and evolve. Batman's character shines because of his resilience in the face of villains whose ideologies would have affected a lesser man. Fear, anger, and corruption are such strong themes because it's Bruce. He has power, he has a sad backstory, and an insurmountable legacy to live up to. He's a truly troubled hero whose inner turmoil is so easily personified in his villains. The constant contrast between the hero and the villain, the fact that they can both feel the same emotions or experience the same feelings, is what makes Batman stories so intense. It's not only the fight between good and evil, but it's the internal power struggle with Batman's incorruptibility, strong sense of justice, and his ideology, which is tested over and over again. And the reason this works so well in a Batman story is because of the way the themes are embodied by not only Bruce, but the villains as well. We always get to see both sides of the same coin, and every time we are reassured that Batman's beliefs are unwavering. If you liked the theme of this video, feel free to leave a like or subscribe for more videos like this. Feel free to comment down below any thoughts you may have, or if you want me to analyze any more Batman media. My name's Turtlekun. Remember to eat well, sleep well, and I will see you in the next video.